Oh,
yeah.
yeah. We got you. Yeah, come on, girl. I'm proud of you. Way to talk to her. Under pressure.
Eva.
What do you think is the most controversial TV show? One of them, Survivor, is not only famous for its grueling challenges, but also for its shocking controversies, from lawsuits, scandals, to controversial production decisions. Have you ever wondered how those incidents affected the show's journey? And hello, let's explore the little-known corners of Survivor's history, guaranteed to keep you glued to your seat. The scene that changed everything. Among all the Survivor controversies, the Dan Spilo incident during season 39, Survivor Island of the Idols, stands as a watershed moment that forever changed the show's trajectory. This wasn't just another dramatic tribal council. It represented a pivotal Me Too moment that forced both the production team and viewers to confront serious questions about contestant safety and proper handling of misconduct allegations. The controversy began when contestant Kelly Kim voiced concerns about fellow player Dan Spilo's inappropriate touching. Kim initially addressed this behavior with Spilo during the early days of filming, yet the unwanted contact continued after the tribe merged. Eventually, Kim broke down during a private interview with a producer, which prompted the show to intervene. For the first time in Survivor history, production stepped in during gameplay, issuing a warning to Spilo about personal boundaries. A title card appeared on screen, explaining that producers met with all the players, both as a group and individually, and that Dan was issued a warning for his behavior. The situation worsened when Kim was voted out at the very next tribal council after raising these concerns. Furthermore, other female contestants, including Missy Bird and Elizabeth Beisel, appeared to exaggerate or fabricate their reactions to Dan's inappropriate touching as a strategic tool in the game. This undermined Kim's legitimate concerns and created confusion about the severity of the situation. Several episodes later, Spilo became the first contestant in the show's history to be ejected from the game. Not for the incidents with Kim, but for an unspecified off-camera incident involving a production crew member. Viewers reacted with unprecedented anger, primarily because of how the situation was handled. Many felt production had intervened too late, with the response being too little too late. The controversy intensified when it became clear that Kim had reported her concerns early on, yet production allowed Spilo to remain in the game until a separate incident occurred. The outcome centered around several key issues: production prioritizing game dynamics over contestant safety, other players weaponizing serious misconduct allegations for strategic advantage, and the show appearing to value a controversial storyline over appropriate action. Furthermore, fans were disturbed by the timing of Kim's elimination, coming immediately after she had spoken up about harassment, which sent a troubling message about the consequences of reporting misconduct. Janet Carbon, another contestant who supported Kim, became so distraught over how the situation unfolded that she nearly quit the show entirely. Initially, CBS and production company MGM released a joint statement defending their actions. In the episode broadcast last night, several female castaways discussed the behavior of a male castaway that made them uncomfortable. During the filming of this episode, producers spoke off-camera to all the contestants still in the game, both as a group and individually, to hear any concerns and advice about appropriate boundaries. Nevertheless, as Backlash mounted, the response evolved. At the season finale reunion, host Jeff Probst publicly apologized to Kim, the first time he had done so since she spoke up. "Before we begin, I want to say to you, you were right," Probst said. "You were right to speak up. You were right to step forward and to speak your truth. And I want to acknowledge and apologize for your pain. You didn't ask for it, and you didn't deserve it." Most importantly, the controversy prompted significant changes in the show's policy. Shortly after Spilo shared an open letter apologizing to Kim, CBS announced new procedures for future seasons, including adding another on-site professional for confidential reporting, implementing anti-harassment training, establishing clear rules against unwelcome physical contact, and partnering with third-party experts to review these policies. Kim later revealed she had sent a letter requesting these changes. "That has been my experience over the last 7-9 months, since we got back really, is asking for my voice to be heard, and ultimately asking for these changes we made. Things need to be different. They have to be different." But is that the only time the survivors have pushed the boundaries of acceptability? There have been some unusual, even controversial moments along the way. Do you want to know what they were and what the consequences were? Cross the line. Throughout Survivor's lengthy run, multiple incidents have crossed ethical boundaries, fundamentally changing both the show and its participants. These boundary-crossing moments often revealed the complicated intersection between reality television entertainment and real human dignity. One of the most shocking Survivor controversies occurred during Survivor Game Changers in 2017, when contestant Jeff Varner, facing elimination, made a desperate and unconscionable choice. In an attempt to portray fellow contestant Zeke Smith as deceptive, Varner publicly outed Smith as transgender during tribal council. The reaction was immediate and visceral. Fellow tribe members responded with unanimous condemnation of Varner's action. "You didn't have to do that. That's personal, and that's wrong of you to do that," echoed across the tribal council. Even host Jeff Probst abandoned the normal voting procedure, instead calling for a show of hands that resulted in Varner's immediate elimination. Afterwards, Varner faced significant consequences beyond the game. He lost his job as a real estate agent at Allen Tate Companies just days after the episode aired. The company stated they ended their relationship with Varner based on their core values of honesty, integrity, and respect. Smith, in a subsequent essay for The Hollywood Reporter, explained his decision not to disclose his transgender status. "I wanted the show to desire me as a game player and an eccentric storyteller, not as the first trans Survivor player." He further noted that Varner's outing implied "I'm not a man, and that simply living as my authentic self is a nefarious trick." The Dan Spilo incident in Survivor Island of the Idols marked the first time in the show's history that a contestant was removed from the game for misconduct. Early in the season, contestant Kelly Kim voiced concerns about Spilo's unwanted touching, which producers initially addressed with a formal warning. Despite this warning, problems persisted. On day 36, Spilo was finally removed after an off-camera incident involving a production crew member. According to reports, the incident occurred as contestants were getting into a boat after an immunity challenge, with Spilo allegedly touching a female crew member's leg. One production source explained the delayed response. "If it had been his first strike, I don't think he would have been removed from the game. But the feeling was, it's time to pull the plug." In many ways, this was just the final straw. This controversy prompted CBS to implement new policies, including adding on-site professionals for confidential reporting, anti-harassment training, and establishing clear rules against unwelcome physical contact. Among the earliest Survivor scandals occurred during Survivor All-Stars in 2004, involving first-season winner Richard Hatch and fellow contestant Sue Hawk. During an immunity challenge, requiring contestants to pass each other on narrow balance beams, Hatch, who often competed naked, made contact with Hawk as they crossed paths. Initially, Hawk appeared to laugh off the incident. However, the following day, she became visibly distressed and ultimately quit the game after an emotional outburst directed at host Jeff Probst. "I was humiliated, dehumanized and spent," Hawk declared before leaving the game. "If Hatch had just walked by me and never touched me, I'd have been fine. But he didn't." Subsequently, Hawk explained her decision. "That evening, when I had time to be by myself, I just kept reliving the incident. It just kept eating into me more and more like a cancer." Though Hawk initially considered legal action against CBS and Hatch, she ultimately decided against it, stating that CBS has been nice about helping to deal with the situation. Later, both Hawk and Hatch appeared together on the early show, with Hawk explaining they had come to terms with it and agreed to move forward and past it. These three incidents highlight how the biggest Survivor controversies often emerge when the line between gameplay and personal boundaries becomes dangerously blurred, forcing both the production and audience to confront uncomfortable questions about reality television ethics. When contestants cross the line in the game, viewers can call it strategy, but what happens when the drama explodes, off-script and off-screen? There was a time when Survivor became more than just a survival game, but the center of real-life social, legal, and ethical debate. Do you remember how much off-screen drama shook Survivor? When off-screen drama took over, beyond the beaches and tribal councils, some of the most significant Survivor controversies unfolded entirely away from camera. These off-screen dramas fundamentally altered perceptions of the show's authenticity and participants' post-game lives. The first major Survivor lawsuit emerged after the inaugural season, when third voted-out contestant Stacey Stillman sued CBS in February. She alleged that executive producer Mark Burnett manipulated her elimination by persuading tribemates Dirk Bin and Sean Kenneth to vote against her instead of fan favorite Rudy Boesch. Stillman sought restitution for lost prize money,
plus $75,000 for out-of-pocket expenses. CBS vigorously countersued for breach of contract and defamation, claiming her allegations damaged the show's reputation. The case gained credibility when Dirk Bend testified that Burnett had approached him, saying Rudy's skills and abilities are going to be very important down the road. Moreover, he hasn't admitted to changing his vote after this conversation. The parties ultimately settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. First season winner Richard Hatch faced serious legal consequences after failing to report approximately $1.4 million in income, including his $1 million prize. After conviction on tax evasion charges, Hatch served 51 months in federal prison. His legal troubles didn't end there. Upon release in 2009, he served an additional 9 months for not amending his tax returns. By 2022, his tax bill had ballooned to $3.3 million, with penalties and interest. Coupled with a separate domestic assault case, later overturned, Hatch's post-show life became defined by legal battles rather than his gameplay. Survivor David vs. Goliath winner Nick Wilson sparked outrage after becoming a Kentucky state representative. Primarily, Backlash erupted when he supported a 2023 bill banning gender-affirming care for transgender youth. 7 former castmates publicly criticized him, with contestant Richard Fourier stating Wilson wants trans youth to suffer. Additionally, Wilson made headlines in 2024 after introducing legislation that would have legalized sex between first cousins. He quickly withdrew it, claiming an inadvertent change during the drafting process. As off-screen tensions begin to overshadow the challenges of survival, Survivor finds itself not only mired in controversy, but also facing a wave of public criticism. But what happens when the decisions of the producers, the people who control the show, become the source of backlash? Is the line between creativity and insensitivity blurring in a notoriously cutthroat game? Production decisions that sparked backlash. Questionable production choices have repeatedly ignited fan fury throughout Survivor's history. Some decisions were so polarizing that they fundamentally altered how the show operated going forward, proving that behind-the-scenes choices often created the biggest Survivor controversy. For season 13, CBS made the unprecedented decision to divide contestants into 4 tribes based solely on ethnicity: Asian American, Black, Latino, and white. This move prompted immediate outrage, with New York City officials blasting the segregation island concept, claiming it would promote divisiveness. Though the premiere still attracted 17.7 million viewers, ratings were lower than usual. The controversial format placed enormous pressure on contestants. Jenny Gozan-Bay recalled, "All of a sudden you've got this heavy burden of making your culture proud." Similarly, Nate Gonzalez noted, "It was very hard to lose challenges when you're representing a..." Shortly after the tribes were formed, producers mixed them up, effectively abandoning the racial theme early in the season. Nonetheless, critics argued that the format either tokenized minorities or risked reinforcing stereotypes. Pearl Islands introduced the outcast twist, allowing previously eliminated contestants to potentially return to the game. Jeff Probst himself later condemned this decision, telling Entertainment Weekly, "It went against everything we said the show was about." Andrew Savage, whose game suffered directly from this twist, was particularly bitter. "I was deeply haunted by the outcast twist and the circumstances under which I left the game." The controversy stemmed not just from eliminated players returning, but allegations they had enjoyed comfortable accommodations while out of the game. The Karamoan finale sparked controversy when producers placed the entire pre-jury cast in the audience rather than on stage, breaking with the show's long-standing tradition. This decision reportedly aimed to hide Brandon Hance's absence, after producers chose not to invite him due to his erratic behavior. Michael Skupin disputed production's claim that the stage couldn't accommodate all contestants, noting the same set had held 18 contestants during the previous season. Eric Reichenbach, though present on stage, called the reunion a farce after being completely ignored during the broadcast. The long-running reality competition has fundamentally transformed after facing numerous Survivor controversies throughout its run. These watershed moments haven't simply created temporary scandals, they've permanently altered the DNA of the show. After the Dan Spilo incident, production implemented several critical policy changes. Notably, CBS mandated pre-game personal space and harassment training for all contestants. Additionally, producers established a confidential reporting system, allowing participants to raise concerns without fear of game repercussions. Perhaps most significantly, Production now employs on-set professionals specifically trained to handle misconduct allegations. These experts remain available throughout filming, creating a safety net previously absent from the show. Behind the scenes, casting procedures underwent rigorous review, with enhanced psychological screening becoming standard practice for potential contestants. The biggest Survivor controversies have undeniably affected audience perception. Following the racial division controversy in the Cook Islands, several major sponsors temporarily withdrew support, demonstrating the real-world consequences of questionable production decisions. Viewer reactions to problematic incidents have grown increasingly vocal over time. Social media has amplified criticism, with hashtag campaigns occasionally calling for boycotts after particularly troubling episodes. Interestingly, certain Survivor scandals have temporarily boosted ratings through controversy, yet potentially damaged long-term viewer loyalty. As the show has evolved, production has gradually moved away from exploiting personal conflicts toward emphasizing strategic gameplay. The early season's willingness to showcase uncomfortable personal dynamics without intervention has given way to a more carefully managed approach. Jeff Probst's role has likewise evolved from neutral observer to active mediator. First thing to remember is how Probst now directly addresses problematic behavior at tribal councils, whereas earlier seasons often left conflicts unresolved. At this point, the show explicitly acknowledges societal issues, rather than treating the game as separate from real-world concerns. Essentially, these accumulated Survivor drama moments forced production to recognize their responsibility, not just to create compelling television, but to protect intestine well-being and reflect evolving social standards. What do you think was the most controversial producer decision in Survivor history? Was it worth the criticism? Was the racial division of the Cook Islands tribe bold or insensitive? If you were a contestant, how would you feel? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you and see you in the next video.